is up, NBA 2K League fans? Josiah Cohen bringing you a finals edition of Pure Playmaker by Prediction. I'm joined, of course, by Will Beverina. Will, what's going on?
Doing good, Josiah. How are you?
I cannot complain. I am phenomenally pumped, phantasmagorical, psyched, because it's finals week. Third-seeded 76ers GC going up against fourth-seeded Timberwolves Gaming, or T-Wolves Gaming, for short, as they're actually called. I'm so excited. I'm already mixing up the teams, messing up players' names. I'm going to be calling them Beast to Bear, Somewhat Radiant, I don't know, Deanie New, I don't know. It's all going crazy because we got an exciting finals week. Will, what are your thoughts right now?
I'm just ready to be in New York right now, Josiah, to be honest. I wish it was Saturday. Just because last year's finals, it was a spectacle, to be honest. I was on site. It was a sweep, but it was a very exciting 2 games. We saw the big upset with the Knicks Gaming over Heat Check. I'm expecting something similar.
It's going to be crazy.
These two teams are just
crazy.
2 exciting teams. I don't think you can really have a finals that can go bad with the 76ers and the T-Wolves in them. So,
yes, sir.
Expecting some fireworks, expecting some excitement. Fingers crossed, no sweep as every other series this playoffs has been. But I think we'll get something real special.
Yes, sir. Every series, as Will has said, has been a sweep so far. We had 4 sweeps in the quarterfinals, 2 sweeps in the semifinals, but now we've got a best-of-5 series in the finals. Hopefully it won't be a sweep. We'll see. Both of these teams are hot, Will. Obviously, the Timberwolves coming in on a massive 11-game winning streak. They haven't lost a regular season game since May 31st, any game since June 14th. The 76ers, an 8-game winning streak of their own. They're very hot. And part of that reason I think that they're so hot, Will, is they've been here before, right? They have playoff experience. Radiant, Nudini, ZDS, Steez were all members of their playoff team last year that won a playoff game, right? They're the only playoff team this year to have won a game in last year's playoffs. And these guys played in 3 playoff games, which very few players said. Will, how much help is it that these guys have the playoff experience?
I think it's huge. To be quite honest, the playoffs are a completely different animal from the regular season. And the T-Wolves, to their credit, they've beaten 2 good teams so far in these playoffs. They've looked very composed, very confident. But the 76ers, they've been here before. They got to the semifinals last season, fell off hard in that semifinal series against Heat Check Gaming. But, this is what they're going to be their 5th playoff series. So they've been here before. They've been to 3 tournament finals as well. If you want to talk about, a elimination game, do or die type of situations, they've won both of the tip-off tournaments. Got to the turn finals earlier this year. This is just an experienced team, top to bottom. They have 4 guys in their starting lineup who are returning from last year, 2-year vets. Only 1 rookie, and that rookie breadwinner is both an all rookie and an all defensive team player. So just experience top to bottom. They've been here before. They know what it takes. They know how to stay calm and composed on that stage in the biggest situations. And they have a massive advantage when it comes to that.
They do indeed. They're out there looking for the bread. Walk on Warriors in there in the chat. Breadwinner's been phenomenal. He's their one player who doesn't have playoff experience. But Will, let me tell you something. We had 8 playoff teams this year. By my count, 7 of those teams had someone who'd played in the playoffs before. 7, right? If you run through them, the Blazers obviously had been there last year. The Mavs had Rux, who played with the Pistons last year. The Pacers also had a guy from the Pistons in Let's Get It Ramo. The Celtics were the only team not to have someone from the playoffs last year, and the Celtics they have an excuse. They have Fab. And they were close to the playoffs last year, 2 tournament finals, couldn't quite get over the hump. They're good. I'm going to push back against you a little bit here, Will. I think experience is valuable. I'm not sure that playoff experience, considering what happened last year with best of 1 series in the quarterfinals, and then, for the 76ers, an absolute dud in the semifinals. I'm not sure the playoff experience is extremely helpful. I think experience on the whole is helpful, but I'm not sure that there's so much difference in playoff experience that it makes so much of a difference, right? Because the Timberwolves, right, they're here, right? They have one guy who played playoff games last year. They have two guys who made the playoffs last year in Feast, whom we'll get to in a moment, and Turn Up Defense, who is the sixth man for Cavs Legion GC last year. And the Cavs actually played more playoff games than the 76ers, right? So I'm not sure that you have all these playoff teams. You have teams who have more experience than the Timberwolves in the playoffs. I'm not sure playoff experience is the end-all be-all, and I'm not sure it's going to play a huge role in this final series.
It's not just the playoff experience. I don't think it's also that, like I said, the 76ers have been in these do-or-die situations a lot more than T-Wolves Gaming has. T-Wolves Gaming has not been to a single finals of any tournament. Closest they got was semifinals? Quarterfinals? Yeah, semifinals. They just haven't been in this situation before, bar Feast, of course. And I think just you can say, well, the Cavs, they played more. I don't think that really matters. They've been here 2 years in a row now. Their failure last year, I think, in the semifinals has really set them up, really taught them, what it takes to win in the playoffs. We've seen that they know how to win in the playoffs. They're now 4-0 in this year's playoffs. I don't know. You really don't think that being in 3 tournament finals in last year's semifinals doesn't give the 76ers somewhat of an advantage in this matchup? I'm really surprised to hear that.
I think the tournament finals do. I think the tournament finals are extremely valuable and might almost even be more valuable than the 3 games of playoff experience they had last year. Okay. Right? The tournament, as our good friend at the NBA 2K League, Harris, pointed out on Twitter today, the 76ers are 42-16 all time. That's the best ever.
Really good.
That's really, really impressive. But I think it's more about the tournament experiences that have helped them get to this point. I think knowing how to win is what's impressive. But on the other side, right, you look at the T-Wolves. They have, as you say, no tournament experience beyond the semifinals. Right? They're an expansion team, for crying out loud. They don't have so many players from season 1. They've got Turn Up, they've got Feast. And yet somehow, 11 games, they were 3-6 at the end of May, 11 games later, and they're here. They're in the finals. Now, Feast, we mentioned Feast earlier as being one of their 2 players who's been here already. You know how he's been here already? Feast played for the 76ers last year. Imagine how good the 76ers would be if they still had Feast. Right? It'd be pretty crazy. Yeah, you pick them against the Blazers with shots in the finals. But that's not how it works. Feast is now in Minnesota. How much has he meant to the Timberwolves team?
I mean, he was part of the core foundation of this team literally from day one, from the very first day that they acquired any players for their franchise. The other guy didn't quite work out so much, but Feast has been, he's been Feast. You know what you expect from Feast. You expect a really smart defender, a guy who's going to be a leader in that locker room, and his numbers don't pop out at you. But that's not the kind of player he is. He's a guy who's going to do all those little things. And when you have a team like the Timberwolves, an expansion team with rookies like Bear and Jay Money, you need a guy like that on your team who does those little things, who knows what it takes to win in this league and knows how to can keep those guys, in check, make sure that mentally they're not checking out, mentally that they stay focused on what they're needing to do. Feast is just a fantastic player, and even with the 76ers somehow being able to replace him with Bread in the draft, still sorely missed by the 76ers. So, yeah.
I can't believe Bread fell to the 76ers at night. Who let that happen? These teams, by the way, are both beneficiaries of major slip-ups on draft night. Bear falling to number 11, Bread falling to 19. Ridiculous. And Feast, by the way, Sportsmanship Award winner this year. Congrats to him, 2019 Sportsmanship Award winner. Also, as we somewhat touched upon, he's the only player drafted in the expansion draft to make the playoffs, right? Because they traded Hood. Right? We all know they traded Hood almost right off the bat. He was gone pretty quickly, right? When they were 1-3, to their benefit, right? They got Jay Money, who's been shooting the lights out. Must have like 20 points per game since he's joined the Timberwolves, right? Feast is the only player in the expansion draft to make the playoffs. What can I say? He's also the only expansion draft player to have won a playoff game.
Yeah, you talk about the draft slip-ups. We didn't. We're talking about the entry draft. Feast falling to 6th in the expansion draft is
madness.
Almost malpractice from the other 3 teams who let him get to that point. So that
it's
was
astounding.
That's where the championship run started, when they were able to grab Feast. Yeah.
Forget experience. Just capitalize on other teams' mistakes. Yeah. That's how you really get to the finals. That's how you absolutely get to the finals. You capitalize on mistakes and stupid mistakes by other teams. Really, Bear falling to 11 at this point, right? Bear didn't have the most outstanding season. He had something like 15 points a game, 9 assists per game in the regular season. You'll compare that to Radiant, who had a tremendous MVP-nominated season. Bear is a leader. He's a winner. He's a leader. He's getting the job done. Experience or no experience come playoff time. He's up to scoring about 4 or 5 points per game. He's up to his assists to over 10 per game, right? He's played big time. Lowered his turnovers. It's remarkable what he has done. And, you have to give credit to the team, right? Once they move Feast down to the 4 and move JoJo up to the 5. JoJo, by the way, is somehow the only standing sharpshooting rebounder in the entire league. Somehow he was the only guy who was able to make it work. So you got to give them credit. Experience or no experience, they've just been phenomenal, and they've had a ton of consistency in the second half of the season, and it's gotten them very deservedly to this point. But one thing I'm curious about, Will, and for those of you who are watching, don't forget to follow the Twitch page, follow the YouTube page, which is on the Twitch page, for all these breakdowns, to hear what Will is curious about, to hear what I'm curious about, and how stupid I think what Will is curious about is. Be sure to follow us. But anyways, Will, this is an expansion team in the finals, and I'm not sure that's been getting enough play. Right? There are only 4 expansion teams this past year. 1 confirmed so far for Season 2. Shout out Hornets, Venom, GT, and Big West. But there's an expansion team in the finals. And while the other 3 expansion teams didn't necessarily make the playoffs, the Nets came fairly close. It wasn't right to the wire with them, but they had their shot. They had a respectable season. Will, is it going to be the norm where expansion teams have a valid shot to do well in the playoffs, maybe even to make the finals?
Maybe. I don't know. When you look at the expansion teams from this year, you kind of got everywhere on the spectrum. For every T-Wolves gaming, there's also a Lakers gaming.
There's a Lakers gaming.
There's a Hawks gaming.
There's a Hawks gaming.
Nets GC, we're kind of somewhere in the middle. I wouldn't say I wouldn't say to expect any expansion teams to be making finals regularly. There's just a lot of talent in this league, and with the way the expansion draft is setting up, maybe the Hornets can come out of that expansion draft with a nice little haul for themselves.
They're going to be good players. They're going to be good players there.
Definitely see it. You could be talking about a playoff team there. Finals, I think this is kind of just an unlikely, really good run by T-Wolves Gaming to win all of those games in a row. Like you said before, capitalizing on other mistakes. But it takes, as we've seen, really, really good asset management, getting the right players in the expansion draft, getting the right players in the entry draft, going into the season, making that one right move that kind of pushes you over the edge. A
all about asset management.
A lot of things had to go the T-Wolves' way for them to get here. And that's not like trying to take anything away from what the front office has done and the moves they have made. But it just seems really unlikely to me that we can see this kind of success every season we get an expansion team.
Yeah, I think I'm going to agree with you there, because I think you have to look at almost, sort of regression to the mean. It's still, the teams who have made tournament finals are still few and far between, right? The 76ers do it consistently because they're the 76ers. And you have to think that, those are the sort of teams who have shown consistency who will get to finals and whatnot. And when you're an expansion team, you don't have the chances to show that unless you really capitalize on other people's mistakes. You make all the right moves, you make all the right trades, you undo the trades that went wrong in a way that really helps your team, as the Timberwolves did here. I don't see expansion teams making the finals. For every expansion team that makes the finals, you have an expansion team like the Lakers. You have an expansion team like the Hawks. Two teams who, are still really trying to build the groundwork, build a framework for their participation in the league, figuring out the right players. And both of those teams have made mistakes. It's clear that they've made mistakes. And the Timberwolves have made mistakes, but they've been able to rectify those. They've been able to get off on a better foot. They've been able just to make things count. And they didn't make crucial mistakes, right? They didn't make a season-altering mistake, as some teams have this year, expansion team or otherwise. But, they hit on their picks with Bear, with Turnup in the second round, which is a steal at this point, you have to admit. Great pick. Bear, Turnup, JoJo in the third, and then everyone's favorite, Nacho Trainer in the fourth round. Those are all tremendous picks. And we saw that those teams who made the most of their picks went to the playoffs. And the Timberwolves knocked out one of those very teams, right? The Warriors, on all of their picks, right? And that's, by the way, they got their two, rookie stars, Kina and Grady in the first round. They got Jin in the third round. Turned out to be great. He's their playoff experience guy. And then they got Chiquita in the fourth round, another great pick. So it's all about hitting on your picks. And expansion teams have more picks to mess it up and less of a framework from which to operate securely and safely.
Yeah, and it matters a lot who's making those picks. Some teams have the right people in place to make those picks.
And some teams do not have the right people in place to make those picks. Yeah. There has to be a balance between your front office people and the players you expect to work with. You got to get the players your players want, but you also have to be firm and say, all right, these are players that are going to help our team, right? They're going to help us more than guys or people you're just friends with.
Yeah.
Being friends is good. Being friends with good. The Timberwolves and 76ers have great chemistry, but they're not in the finals based solely on their chemistry. They're not. It's just a fact of life. They're not simply there based on their chemistry. Well, this point guard matchup, we got Radiant, we got Bear. This is a phenomenal matchup. What do you like in this matchup?
I mean, what's not to like?
What's not to like, indeed?
Radiant has been the best player in these playoffs.
Incredible.
I don't think there's any debate about that whatsoever. That Game 2 against the Celtics was one of the single greatest performances ever in the NBA 2K League. That's not an exaggeration at all. It really was. It doesn't have.
Might that be the best playoff performance ever?
Yeah, I think it could be. I think it could. And let's also not forget, in the quarterfinals, he had a pretty dang good game to close out that series against the Pacers too.
He did indeed.
This guy's just been a killer in these playoffs. He's been a
killer. 24 points per game, 13 assists per game. Been consistent. I've never seen a lock as dejected and disheartened as Melly's, who's a very good lock, had a great season. Melly's he was doing this. If he wasn't grabbing his controller, his head was shaking his head. He just looked tired. He looked worn out. He looked ready to be done with Radiant on him. I think he had maybe 3 or 4 cold rings throughout the game, which is pretty remarkable for the league. Radiant had a tremendous, tremendous game.
Radiant will do that too, just because he's Radiant. Also, with those numbers you gave, which are great numbers. He's shooting something like 60% from three right now, and maybe like 55% from the field. Uh, the numbers have just been fantastic. Not only is he scoring, he's dictating the tempo, he's setting up his teammates, getting everyone involved, and no one can guard him right now. He's gone up against two good locks in Wolf and Mel East, and both of them kind of looked a little bit lost trying to guard Radiant.
Yeah.
The story all season was Mama's great play, and Mama played fantastically. But Radiant has showed us another level in these playoffs so far, a level that I'm not convinced, Josiah, that Bear, for as good as he is and for as great of a personality as he is, as much as we all love to watch Bear, Radiant has reached a level I'm not sure Bear can reach, Josiah, and I don't think he can reach that level. Which is
everyone. Will's hating on Bear. Will is hating on Bear. Swarm the DMs. Flood his Twitter. He's hating on Bear.
I'm not hating on Bear. It's simply tipping my cap to a point guard in Radiant who has just played so well. And as I was saying, with Mama's performance, it kind of almost overshadowed just how good Radiant is. And he's shown us why. I really couldn't argue with you if you told me that Radiant is the best player in the entire world right now with how he's playing.
All right, hyperbole train is leaving the station.
It's the finals. Why not?
Because it's the finals.
If someone said that to you, if someone said Radiant is the best player in the world, what would you say?
I would say, let's see how it does in the finals.
Yeah,
that's what I would say. But if you'd have a darn good argument right about now, after he beat Fab, he was better than Fab in that last series, and I probably would have said at that point that Fab was the best player in the world. So by the transitive property.
Have you seen Bear play at a level that Radiant played in that game 2 against the Celtics?
I think if he consistently plays like he did in that first game against the Warriors and then the second half of that game, then maybe we have a conversation. Because Bear was phenomenal in those games. He eviscerated the Warriors defense. This Warriors defense coming off an amazing series, probably the best defensive series of all time against the Blazers in the quarterfinals. Bear just tore them apart. And that's in small part due to the Warriors' own missteps, right? Continuing the trend of needing things to go right, capitalizing on teams' mistakes. Bear tore that apart. But I think I'd have to agree with you. Radiant would be ahead right now. But at the same time, you look at who's guarding each of them, right? You've got Turnup for the Timberwolves, who's really upped his scoring in these playoffs, which is not what he'll be most importantly tasked with doing. But Turnup's been really good. Turnup has been really, really good playing defensively. The scary thing for me, though, is Nudini might have been even better. Nudini might have taken even more of a leap in the playoffs, right? We always considered Turnup, good, above average lock. We didn't necessarily consider that with Nudini. But in these playoffs, for my money, Nudini has stepped up like nobody else. He has had the games of his life, and if he continues that, it's going to be 76ers heavy.
That's always the big question with NBA 2K19. How is the point guard going to play against the lock? How is the lock going to play against the point guard? That's going to be a big question for this finals. It's no different. And that's especially where I say, yeah, Radiant is definitely going to outplay Bear in this series, Josiah. I don't think Radiant is going to have any trouble whatsoever getting past Turnup defense. Turnup defense has been playing fine. He's been a good lock. He exploded offensively as well in that Warriors series. He had to have been averaging 20 points across those 2 games in that Warriors series. It doesn't matter. You're playing against Radiant. Radiant has cooked Wolf. Radiant has cooked Mel East. Radiant is going to cook Turnup defense. I just don't see Turnup being able to lock Radiant down. And Radiant is also by far the best point guard that turn-up defense is going to have to go against in these playoffs. No offense to BP or CB13. And like you said, Nudini, he's been playing really well. Definitely above the level that he was in the regular season. I have a little bit more confidence in him, not just because of his own defense, but just because of the overall team defense of the 76ers. Breadwinner, like we mentioned before, in all first team defensive selection. Steve's also a very smart player and defender. I have a lot more confidence in them being able to stop Bear. Bear's probably going to do fine. He just won't be able to match Radiant's production, and that's where the 76ers have the biggest edge, I think.
But let's talk about the backside of the defense, and there I think Bear might have a case. Breadwinner, as we've said, yep, all rookie team, all defense team, great, very good defender, amazing. They got him with the 19th pick. He's an aggressive defender. He's a very aggressive defender. And that's the sort of thing Bear, who's a very smart guy, who's a pass-first point guard, that's something he's going to look to take advantage of and might have success taking advantage of. Steez, and by the way, that's totally my line. Steez is a very smart defender. He's a very smart rebounder, too, which is an underrated plot of how the Warriors lost. They got obliterated on the board. Steez is not going to let that happen. But look at this. Offensively for the Timberwolves, right? You've got Bread guarding the backside of the pick and roll. It's probably a win. It's probably a win, for them compared just to what the T-Wolves can throw. But the T-Wolves do have Feast, by the way, guarding that pick and roll, and Feast is someone we both put on our all defensive first team front court ballots.
Yep.
But let's consider this. Let's consider the matchup at the 3, at the shot-creating sharpshooter. ZDS can shoot the lights out. He can shoot the lights out like nobody else. He might be one of the top 3 sharpshooters in the entire league. They knocked off, maybe the top sharpshooter in the league on their way to the finals in Switzerland. But ZDS is not the best defender in the world. ZDS is not the smartest defender. The T-Wolves run a lot of plays where J Money is moving around, herky-jerky, he's running free, he's texting from the elbow, he's texting from the free throw line, he's rapping, he's moving, he's rapping. You mentioned a little cooking earlier. They might be playing with fire there. They might be playing with some serious fire there. ZDS, that's a matchup I think the Timberwolves really have to attack. On the other side, though, the 76ers should do the exact same thing. J Money is not a good defender. J Money has improved his defense in these playoffs. Hat tip to him. He's not a good defender. ZDS might be even better at rapping and shooting. J Money's pretty damn good, but ZDS might just be better. Is Radiant going to be better off, taking it against Turnup and Feast in the pick and roll and trying to score out of that? Or is he going to have just way too many open looks to ZDS to try and take advantage of that? What's it going to be, Will?
I don't know. The thing about ZDS though is he actually hasn't been all that great in these playoffs.
No.
Kind of quietly.
A little quiet. But when ZDS gets quiet, there's a storm brewing.
That was my next point.
There's a storm brewing.
ZDS is like the Klay Thompson of the NBA 2K League, where just every once in a while he goes off on some crazy scoring outburst. Think of Klay Thompson, most points ever scored in a single quarter. ZDS, he has most points scored in a single game this season. Yeah, 52 points, and he's had a couple, at least one or two other 40-plus point
40-plus point games for sure.
So I think he's due, Josiah. I think ZDS is due.
ZDS might just be due.
I think he's going to have at least one game in this final series where he scores at least 30 points. And I think if ZDS scores 30 points like that, I think that's a win for the 76ers. But like you said, J Money, he's also a pretty good player in himself. He was part of the reason that the T-Wolves have been able to go on this run. I'm not sure. J Money has also been kind of quiet in these playoffs.
J Money's been very quiet. J Money has seen his score drop like few other players in this series. He's seen his 3-point percentage drop to below 40%, which is not where you want to be as your primary sharpshooter. Excuse me here. But I'm just worried, and hence the worried face. I'm just worried. I don't think CDS is going to go off for 30. I'm going to give the T-Wolves enough credit here. I think their defense, they haven't allowed a team to score like over 60 points in a month. I think their team defense is good enough to stop them at this point. Not necessarily all the way. Again, there's only so much you can do to contain Radiant. You're never going to check him completely. That's out of the question. And I'm warming more to the Klay Thompson metaphor, or the Klay Thompson simile, as it sort of works over in my brain.
I don't know why you look so confused when I said
that.
Because
I was thinking, I think Klay doesn't have many games where he scored 6 or 7 points or 2 points.
Well, okay.
And I was thinking defensively as well.
It's not perfect. It's not perfect.
It's not perfect.
I was just talking about the ability to go off. ZDS has that.
His ability to go off.
J Money has not shown us that. J Money has not
shown us. Not in the playoffs.
Yet. No.
Not in the playoffs.
The season.
He had some big games in the regular season.
Not
J Money and ZDS both fall into the category of guys who can hit shots with an inch of space.
And you're talking about team defense on ZDS. They haven't had a team score 60 plus on them in a month. This is the 76ers. Are they actually, Josiah? Is that team defense actually going to be able to check or keep everyone in check?
No, you can't. That's why they're the 76ers. We're in agreement about the overall consensus here.
So why are you bringing up team defense to me about why they're going to shut down ZDS?
Because I think this series is going to fall on Radiant.
Yeah, it is.
I don't think they're going to give ZDS the chance to go off like that.
Maybe.
I think it's almost a reverse Belichickian strategy, right? Rather than taking away their best player, because you can't hope to take their best player, you take away everything else. So game 1. Let's see if Radiant can go for 50 and beat us.
That's a dangerous game to play.
That's a dangerous. It's a very dangerous game to play. It's a very, very dangerous to play. But the Timberwolves, they know danger. They've been in dangerous situations. They've made dangerous situations happen because of their mistakes. They've gotten themselves out of dangerous situations. 76ers, they've got that playoff experience. Dangerous situations or not. Last year, Radiant had a dud of a playoffs. An absolute dud. That went up on the bulletin board for this year. Things have completely changed. His playoff experience has come in handy. Will, I think I know who your pick here is. Who you taking in this series?
Taking 76ers GC.
Taking 76ers GC.
Pick the 76ers before the season. Pick them before the playoffs.
Now that they're before the playoffs.
There is no reason whatsoever for me to stray away from that pick. T-Wolves Gaming is a good team.
Good team.
T-Wolves Gaming is not as good as 76ers GC in just about every position matchup I can think of. The 76ers have the advantage. Turn-up defense is not going to be able to go off for 20 points a game as he did against the Warriors.
Yeah.
Coach Jeff Terrell is going to be able to shut that down. And then
Jeff Terrell will lose his voice 3 times over before he lets that happen.
Jeff Terrell, Coach of the Year. He's
Coach of the Year. Well-deserved Coach of the Year.
And, the Timberwolves, what's the name of their interim coach? I forget.
Justin Butler.
Justin Butler. Sorry, Justin, for forgetting your name. Justin Butler, he's been doing well. He's helped the team get to this point with their win streak. He's not on the level of Jeff Terrell. I've been saying that a lot tonight. They're just not on the level of the 76ers. Radiant's going to go off. Like I said, ZDS is going to have at least 130-plus point game, and I think that's just a guaranteed win for the 76ers at that point. JoJo, he had the series of his life against Warriors Gaming Squad. He's not going to have anything near that against Breadwinner and Steez down low. No matter how aggressive Breadwinner is, he's going to be able to stop JoJo from out rebounding the entire team and shooting all those threes from the pick and pop. And turn up defense, I don't think has any hope of containing Radiant. I don't think anyone in this league has any hope of containing Radiant. It's just all around. 76ers are just a stronger better team at every position, even at coach. I see no reason to pick against the 76ers in this.
It's all in Radiant's hands, facing a first-year expansion, facing his old teammate in Feast. It's all in Radiant's hands. It's finals week. We're gonna find out all the answers to questions on Saturday. We're gonna find out if ZDS scores 30 points or if he doesn't.
We should find out what your pick is, Josiah, before you weasel your way out of it. Who do you have winning?
I'm picking the 76ers. We all know this.
And
As I commented, Radiant's going to go off. Radiant's going to go off. Radiant's going to go off. Steez is going to patch over all the leaky things on the defensive end. Nudini's going to play his heart out. ZDS is going to hit some crazy, crazy shot. And you know what? They're going to be up like 30 points, clinching game. ZDS is going to be at 27 points, nearing 30 for the first time all series. Clock is winding down. 4 seconds left on the clock. They get an inbounds play. They call it up. They draw it up specifically for ZDS. He greens it with 1 inch of space left. He turns around. He looks at me, and they win the finals. That's what's going to happen.
Because they listened to this, and they were like...
Because they listened to this.
They need to get ZDS 30. Because
they need to get ZDS 30.
Yeah.
Hey, if ZDS gets 30, then my prediction also is probably correct. So
How many games is this going?
4.
Yeah, I say 4 too.
3-1 76ers.
I say 76ers in 4.
76ers in 4.
Not going to be a sweep. Unfortunately, I don't think it'll go to 5 games. I'm hoping for 5 games.
I would love to see 5 games.
I'd love to see a game 5 triple OT. I can't even imagine what the studio would be like.
It would be insane.
Thankfully, we'll be there.
We'll be there. We will be there. We will 100% be there. So. And who knows? When ZDS greens that last shot with 2 seconds left to win the finals and score 30 points, you come back, you follow this Twitch page, you follow the YouTube page, you send me the YouTube video. I don't know, I'll do a giveaway or something. If that exact scenario happens, not if ZDS just goes off for 30 points. Thanks everyone who tuned in. I'm Josiah Cohen, joined by Will Beverina for Predictions Pure Playmaker. It is finals week. You better tune into the finals. Thank you all for tuning in tonight.
YouTube down below.
Down below. Down below.